This is why we can't do it.
Yeah, you got to be a hard target. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Wait, no, that was Jean-Claude.
That was Jean-Claude. I'm switching it up.
You can't do that. That's not the premise of the thing.
What? You saying there's no body doubles here?
Well, there might be a double impact, but there's no. This is why you can't do that. We have to stick to one or the other. Come on.
Hey, I'm no cyborg. All right, I'll do what I want.
God damn it! I feel like this is under siege.
Don't worry.
We're in dark territory here.
I've got a license to drive, so you don't have to give.
No! You can't do that. You cannot do that. No.
His brain is exploding.
You are breaking our rules. God, this is safe. This is holy ground. You can't do that.
Where we're going, we don't need rules.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Are they in the proper approach pattern for today?
Negative.
Hold the weapon! Now! Charge the lightning field.
Please, for our audience, and also secretly for me, exactly what is the premise of this miniseries? Is it about comic book history, or is it about, are you just giving background to certain comic book movies?
Yes.
Okay, crystal clear. There we go.
Essentially, this is the second part. Please listen to part 1 if you'd like to hear from the, I think, late 1880s up until the 1940s some.
Here's a whole thing about the plight of the urban proletariat. It's quite engrossing.
Well, someone's got to knock those bourgeoisie down a peg, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we finally got past feudalism, so I kind of woke up and was like, oh, okay, now, Industrial Revolution, cool.
It's like the Borg always said.
Yes.
But no, this is the second part in the series talking about the history of comics, comic strips, the comic medium, and its adaptation into film, and how important and how resilient it has been in the pop culture psyche from the very beginning of movies till today. We will stop before we get to today, but that is the idea, so that we can kind of dispel this myth that comic movies are the death of us, and once we get rid of these things, we'll rocket off into a grand new spectacle of filmmaking. Comic books have always been here in the film, and they will always be here in some form or fashion. And this is just kind of laying out the history of that, with sprinkling some other details in the midst of all of that.
I think we witnessed the peak saturation, at least, of that genre.
If we're talking about, say, per capita or even per dollar spent, if there are 7 movies and one of them's a superhero movie, that's like how many, movies, or if like there were $100 spent and $30 of those went to comic movies, that's probably about where we're at currently. It's tough because there aren't records of movie-going numbers in 1910.
Sure. Lazy. It's because they were lazy.
But with the amount and ubiquity that comics to film up on those early talkies, up on the reel-to-reels they were putting up at that time, comics were a major part of film.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, but yes, you're right.
But again, it just like post Seduction of the Innocent, where comics were kind of stripped down of any depth. They were relegated to just being kid fare, and the history and the prominence of comics was taken out of culture, never really to gain back what it was. It's grown in a different way, from say the 80s onward, but it's always been relegated to second tier, low class entertainment.
Yes, or kid-oriented or dumbed-down entertainment. I've made this example before, but I think it's mostly apt in this specific application. That when I went to see Batman '89, I remember being in the audience and a bunch of drunk teenage kids were in the front row.
They weren't turtles and ninjas, were they?
Well, they might have been one or the other. It's hard to say.
If it's not at least 3 of the 4, then I don't really care.
Well, then it's not a real outing. It doesn't count in the actual, right? There's an asterisk next to it. But they were obviously drunk, even though it was like, I don't know, like 1 in the afternoon. Before the movie started, they got up and mockingly singing the Batman 66 theme song, because that was the last incarnation of Batman we had until 89. And so their only memory and their only impression of characters like Batman were camp, cheese, it wasn't cool. It was considered lowbrow or childish. But then when that movie started, oh man, they shut the fuck up.
Well, that's fitting, because for my intents and purposes, once we hit 89, I think things definitively change.
Yes.
I think the way that comic book films are approached, the way the medium is approached after that, and the viability of comics on film and what they can mean for the industry as a whole, I think completely skyrockets to a different stratosphere, which is why I think we don't necessarily need to get in past that. My history stopping up until that, so we kind of get a sense of how things used to be, rather than how we've experienced it the past 40 years. All right, so last time on Dispatch Ajax, we had just finished up with the 1940s Captain America series. Now let's jump into
the fire.
There is a fire down below that we've got to get into, my friends.
We can continue with Steven Seagal, but that's a rabbit hole we don't want to continue, so.
No, mostly because we're going to get slapped.
Yeah.
But as long as we stay on the other side of the booth, we should be fine.
Or a dangerous trap.
All right. In 1945, Dale Messick created the intrepid young teenage reporter Brenda Starr.
Redhead. Sorry. Sorry,
shit.
I got to go to the bathroom real quick.
Do you really?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I just have a thing for redhead. Sorry, that's what I was joking. But...
Oh, yeah, he's got a thing. Sorry.
Boner!
He's got a booner. That's how they say it in Albania.
In Canada, it's called a bonaire.
Ike Bean Boonair. So it's kind of a deep cut.
Kinda, and the weird mashup too, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Actually, she was created in 1940, but she made her big screen debut in 1945 in a 13-chapter Columbia serial directed by journeyman Wallace Fox, with the leading
Willie Fox,
Billy. Starred Joan Woodbury. It had moderate to middling success. It did spawn a 1989 version of Brenda Starr, which, spoiler, we'll talk about in a little bit more depth later on. Not this podcast, another podcast, the future. Listen in the future is what I'm saying, everybody.
It's not really a spoiler, I guess, that I don't... Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that later. How about that?
Yeah. Anyway.
Because anyway, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Now let's get into interesting. So a lot of that was happening in America, even in some Europe, but that wasn't the only place that comic books and superheroes and that whole graphic novelization adaptation genre was happening. Let us travel into Japan and talk about Ogon Bat, otherwise known as the Golden Bat, or also known as Phantom Man or Phantomas in various countries outside of Japan. Now, this is a Japanese superhero that's created by Suzuki Ichiro and Takeo Nagamatsu in the autumn of 1930, and originally appeared in Kamishibai, which is paper theater, kind of like you'd have imagine like a Sesame Street, or someone's up here and he's next to like a little stage area, but there will be paper, kind of like a comic book page, and then they'll turn to the next page and it will be dialogue, and they'll turn to the next page and it will be a thing. So like these paper cards paired with scripted performances by a narrator.
Yeah, it's a little bit like pantomime, like a Punch and Judy, but kind of also like a silent film.
Yes, very much like that. Now, Ogon Bat, or the Golden Bat, by many, or at least by some, it might be considered the world's first superhero. Again, coming out in 1930, that's 8 years before the debut of Superman. And there was a live-action adaptation of the Ogon Bat. Ogon Bat, the Golden Bat, was a popular character in all of Japanese pop culture, including manga, anime, Japanese films, as well as toys and postage stamps dating back to 1932.
Hentai?
Why don't you dig a little deeper, see what you can find yourself.
Oh, I bet to get in there.
So the Golden Bat, the Phantom of the Skyscraper, was a 1950 tokusatsu film produced by Tokyo Igai Hagio, former Toei, and
There's a lot going on in that title alone.
Shinigashia. Now, aside from stills that were supposedly taken during the film's shooting, the original film is now considered to be lost media. There just aren't any prints of it left.
Oh, that's what happened to Doctor Who, too.
Yeah, it's rough. But just to give you an idea of what the film was, Dr. Ogata, the discoverer of the Ultron superatom,
Cool.
which produces a power far greater than that of the hydrogen bomb, is targeted by the evil QX gang and the leader, Dr. Natso. Not Nazi, Natso.
Not so bad.
Hey, he's not so bad.
He's I.
The QX gang, the QX gang?
Oh,
Attempting
no.
to use its for a different purpose. However, Golden Bat, the monster of justice, kick-ass name,
Fuck yeah.
had shown up to fight and stop their evil plan. Now, in 1966, Toei made another live-action Golden Bat film. After this one, the latter doesn't apparently share continuity with the previous film.
Oh, good. I love that when that happens.
But nobody could see the previous film anyway, so who cares?
Oh, so now it's an Evil Dead scenario. Okay.
Well, both are good. Por qué no los dos? It was also later adapted into a popular anime TV series in 1967, which was then released in various European and Latin American countries.
No anime existed before it came to America. Period.
Oh, okay, cool.
The first anime was Vampire Hunter D. End of story.
It's Ninja Scroll. I won't hear any different.
It premiered on Toonami, and that's fact.
Yeah, but it's fascinating that the Golden Bat may well be the first superhero in mass popular culture. At least in the form that we know them as superheroes.
So you're saying this is pre-Superman?
This is 8 years before Superman.
Right, yeah.
And
right.
long
Okay.
before Batman. So,
But it's also in the Phantom era, correct?
the Phantom?
No, in that mysterious phantom zone of time that I'm pretty too old. Sorry.
Stop talking about that period of time. Technically, this is pre the Phantom. So this is 1930. So the Phantom debuted in 1936.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. All right.
And the Shadow, 1931. So that again, that's a year after this.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, pretty cool. That's one of the things I found in my my digging for this pod. Now we're moving on. Again, we'll talk about Black Hawk, a lesser creation of Chuck Quidra, Bob Powell, and Will Eisner. Again, created in 1940 for Quality Comics, and later came to DC. It had a 1952 serial of the same name, directed by Spencer Gordon Bennett and Fred F. Sears.
I didn't know that.
It did.
Now I want to see that.
Well, I'll allow it.
Send me your forms in duplicate.
In an isolated section of the southwest United States, a hidden airport, secret base of cleverly designed planes which appear conventional but are powered with super engines. Headquarters of the Black Hawks, guardians of the peace who do not use guns but meet armed violence with superior skill and strength.
Weird connection. First actor listed, Superman's own Kirk Allen.
Oh.
One of the main Blackhawks. An early example of actors playing multiple comic book roles.
Next, we'll get the 1954 Hal Foster Prince Valiant comic strip turned into a movie.
Father, it's all clear. It's Boltar.
I started watching Prince Valiant, and it starts off with a voiceover, and I'm like, oh my god, that's a really familiar voice. I know who that is. I refuse to look it up. Michael Rennie, Klaatu from The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, and he's got such a distinct voice.
Prince Valiant debuted in 1937 as a full-color Sunday feature and continues to this day.
Yes.
But it was transferred to screen by Henry Hathaway and a young Robert Wagner as Prince Valiant himself.
That's really funny because I actually went to, oh my God, when I was reporting, I was waiting for a Marvel panel in a smaller room. It was like sort of an experiment they were doing because I talked to a Marvel exec after that. But I went with my dad, and literally across the hall, Anthony Bourdain was hosting his Jiro Dreams of Sushi panel. And I'm sitting in a panel for the 75th anniversary of Prince Valiant, waiting for this next panel to start. My dad literally falls asleep in his chair waiting. I'd say I was the youngest person in that room by 4 decades.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen a Prince Valiant fan under the age of 50. Minimum.
Right. It's like trying to find a Civil War vet. Like, they're just not around anymore.
Yeah. When you turn 50 as a white male, you have 3 paths. You have World War II buff, you have Civil War buff, or you have Prince Valiant fan.
Prince Valiant
Those are
fan,
3 options.
That's it. 2 of which can be found on the History Channel. The other one, you have to be on a very specific path beforehand.
I'm sure now there's a streaming service just devoted for that.
Just for old men falling asleep to Prince Valiant. Which, by the way, they do riff on in Spaceballs, which very few people, I think for a lot of people our age, that was our first introduction to that, because my dad explained the joke to me when I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay. And now nobody knows who the fuck Prince Valiant is, even though it's still going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, again, it's still, are you in your 60s or 70s as a white male? Then you get something in the mail that says, do you know about Prince Valiant?
Then this podcast is for you. Do you read Prince Valiant? Splits his head open. Gets shot by police.
In 2 or 3 generations, Prince Valiant will just be a bedtime story that they say to their kids. But it wasn't a bedtime story in 1997 because there was another film made about Prince Valiant, directed by Anthony Hickox and starring Stephen Moyer in the title role there.
The Stephen Moyer?
The Stephen Moyer.
Wow, what a get.
Indeed. Another get, probably a little more sultry one this time, would be Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. Also created by Will Eisner and Jerry Iger in 1937. Now, it got some screen time in a television series the same name that ran from 1955 to 1956.
Well, so a season.
It was 26 episodes.
It didn't run from anything. It had a season.
It crept around on the small screen for all 26
It showed up for 1 season.
But it did have a film in 1984 starring Tanya Roberts of A View to a Kill or Beastmaster fame.
Oh, not Brigitte Nelson.
No. That's,
like you would think.
That's I think she was Sonya-ing it in the red variety at that point in time.
It's true.
Next we have Dennis the Menace, who first appeared as a comic strip and in comic books in 1951, but came to the small screen with a highly successful television series that ran 4 seasons from 59 to 63, a total of 146 episodes.
You know, my father, his nickname when he was a kid was Dennis the Menace. Not just because his name's Dennis, but he did a lot of, let's call it mischief. He burned down their house at one point.
Well, Mr. Weatherby was a piece of shit, so he deserved that.
So was Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Weatherby, that was Archie, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that we both instantaneously knew these things is part and parcel of why our only recourse and outlet for being people is this show.
Yeah. Hi, only friend. Skip across the screen.
It's Mr. Wilson, dumbass.
Dennis also had a couple other, we'll say, poorly received feature films.
Oh, yeah. Was that Macaulay Culkin?
No. It was
good.
Some kid.
I'm thinking of Richie Rich.
You were thinking of the rich man.
He's a boy.
You know who's not a boy? Osamu Tezuka. In fact...
Osama Bin Laden.
Not Bin Laden, but Tezuka is considered to be the father of modern manga.
Are you sure Osama Bin Laden wasn't the father of modern manga? Because I remember that stash of stuff that the CIA found. Oh, no, he just watched a lot of hentai. Never mind.
Potato, tomato. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Love Tom and Jerry.
Now, he's not the sole creator, but he was quite prolific and innovative in both his output and what he wrote about.
How so?
Don't ask stupid questions, Skip.
My fault.
Look it up. It's called The Intertubes.
Look it up!
Now, Tezuka was widely influenced by early works of Walt Disney, specifically Bambi in 1942 and Snow White in 1937. In fact,
Mein Kampf.
that's why Thumper has that little mustache.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
All right.
you have the 10th dwarf who just keeps zig-hailing the whole time. He's always in the background.
That was a problem. Nobody knows what happened to the 8th and 9th dwarves, but I'm guessing that they were returned.
That is a literal conspiracy that never happened.
It's like all the movies previous to Leonard Part 6.
Yeah, where's my Part 4 truthers, huh? Where are you at? Make your small change movie about that.
About Ghost Dad. Yeah.
But he was influenced by the large eyes, which it kind of gave him a bit of that style that has proliferated through manga ever since. Now, Tezuka, 1950 to 1954 manga series Jungle Emperor Leo and its subsequent anime adaptation Kimba the White Lion, 1965 and 1967, was the first anime produced in color.
Kimba the White Supremacist. Ironically.
So the adventures of the White Lion Kimba is a story of the lion who seeks to succeed his father as king of the jungle. King of the jungle.
Of the jungle? That's the
junior
game.
jumble, yes. He had to get around the word scramble first. Then
Can we just say, like, okay, come on. So, Simba?
yes, there was controversy ever since, because a lot of people, mostly rightly, point out that The Lion King from 1994 and how many other versions they've had ever since. There's a new one coming out in 2024.
What?
Yeah, quote, live action sequel. Again, I don't know how it can be live action if there's no actual live animals or people in it.
100% correct.
I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
It doesn't make sense at all. So
no, the sequel to the last remake. So
Are those also going to go direct to video?
now this is a prequel. This is a prequel of how.
Oh my
what was
god.
Simba's father's name?
Mufasa?
This is Mufasa's story of how he watched an anime about a white lion and he started writing down the script.
I guarantee you that how they got away with it was because it's just Hamlet. Everything else is coincidental. Our source material is Hamlet, which is in public domain.
It's also here's at that time an obscure animated film from 1965. Who's gonna know? Come at the King.
That's Come at the Lion King.
Yeah, and they got away with it, and I don't think there's been any. I'd have to look up, but again, hey guys, go check it out. If you didn't know,
Do your own research.
that Lion King, the Lion King is essentially a ripoff of Kimba the White Lion. One, go see Kimba the White Lion. There are plenty of differences, granted, but it's a little too on the nose to
It's still
overlook.
obvious, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if you didn't know it was Hamlet, please read more.
Now, coming back to America, we have The Green Hornet. Now, originally this was a radio program conceived by George W. Trendle back in 1936.
George W. Bush.
But made its debut in comic form in 1940 and became the subject of at least two Universal serials, Ford and Beebe and Ray Taylor's The Green Hornet, 1940, and The Green Hornet Strikes Again, 1941.
It's not just a clever name.
Not just he was back and greener than ever. If you don't know The Green Hornet, a wealthy man, becomes a crime fighter, aided by his sidekick Kato.
His problematic sidekick.
Yeah. And because of the success of Batman, William Dozier, the producer, tried to recreate some of that with the Hornet, kind of updating that, and then had Van Williams and some guy named Bruce Lee starring as Kato. Again, lasted only one season, 1966-67, but
There's a great scene about this in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, where he and his wife are at a wrap party for the end of Green Hornet, and it's announced that the show's canceled, but he's the only one not disappointed because he has pitched Kung Fu, which does not end up well for him.
Yeah. But long after his death, unfortunately, Warrior, which is now currently streaming on Netflix at this exact moment, maybe not when you're listening to the podcast.
I'm watching it right now.
Yeah. Warrior is great. It's a great TV show.
I told you it was good.
I told you it was good.
No!
I saw this years ago.
I said I was watching it. You said I was looking into that. Is it good? And I was like, yeah, you should watch it. It was just kind of a standard fare conversation, but still, that's how it happened.
I think I was watching it.
Who is it that has better memory? Let's just step back.
Okay. You do have better memory, but you also have plenty of false memories. So it's a little bit of column A, column B.
Everybody has false memories. And besides, a lot of things you think I have false memories about are things you just don't remember.
Folks, we're never going to get to the bottom of this. There's no way we could possibly know. So instead, we should talk about Barbarella.
It sounds like we recorded any of it.
Yeah. Go back to the tapes.
Oh, I'll go to the tapes. I'll scour the tapes.
You know what? I'm going to go to the mattress and see how that works out for you. So, Barbarella.
So anyway, Barbarella.
How about Barbarella?
That's the new. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
So Barbarella was a comic character serialized in the French magazine V Magazine by Jean-Claude Forest in 1962. It was later produced in its own standalone features. But in 1968, there was a classic film adaptation by Roger Vadim starring Jane Fonda.
There you go. I was
Miss
going to ask.
Barbarella. Maybe go check it out, because this is kind of a travels through the galaxy on adventures and, kind of wild sexual,
It's a gas, man.
It's a gas.
It's a bonkers film.
They're making a new vision of Barbarella.
I don't want it. I think we should just leave it alone. That is one of the horniest movies I have ever seen. And that's dealing with the MPAA back then.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I just remember, I feel like everything was phallic and scantily clad.
Well, and tits were out all over the place. And not only that, but the villain at the beginning of the third act has kidnapped her and put her in this torture device that he has. He plays keys on the organ that will make her climax to death, is the premise.
I'll have what she's having, please.
To watch it for that scene alone, because she's such a sexual dynamo, spoiler alert, that she breaks the machine.
That's right.
They wouldn't get away with that today.
Yeah, well, maybe someday we'll cover it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, Sydney Sweeney currently is cast in the titular role of Barbarella in the theoretical Barbarella remake.
Give it a shot. Okay.
Oh, it's going to get at least one shot. That's for sure.
Oh, I'll give it a hot shot for sure.
We're despicable.
I'll shoot it all over that. Just go on. Yeah.
No. Do tell, Skip.
Now you've piqued my interest. Please explain.
My eyebrow isn't the only thing that's raised right now.
So when you're masturbating, there's this...
Perhaps a bit more of an enlightened feminist narrative would be Modesty Blaze, British comic strip character created by Peter O'Donnell and Jim Holdaway back in 1963.
On the other end of the spectrum, completely.
So it ran as a daily feature up until 2001. She and her sidekick, Willie Garvin, travel the globe in search for action and adventure.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? And in 1966, director Joseph Losey brought Modesty Blaze to the screen, person of Monica Vitti with Terrence Stamp in the role of Willie.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah.
Kneel before Zod.
Kneel before Willie.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have.
If you're doing it right. There was also a 1982 pilot prose series for this and a 2003 direct-to-video feature.
Ooh. That's where we get a lot of these things later on as stuff goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts really exploding the options for
the potential media venues.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny because that doesn't exist anymore. There is no direct-to-video anything.
there is. It's just direct to streaming.
Well, sure, but okay. No. So when we say direct-to-video means that it is a lower quality movie that they didn't think could possibly make money in theaters, so they went directly to home video, right? Now, today, well, for a while, it was just the Sci-Fi Channel that had those, or like TNT, but today, direct-to-streaming could be a huge summer blockbuster. It doesn't have to be the Tomorrow War or whatever.
Yeah, what was that Rock, Wonder Woman, and Ryan Reynolds film that was supposedly like the #1 film in the world?
So Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Wonder Woman. Okay, let me
Red
parse
Notice.
that. Oh,
Red
okay,
Notice.
yeah, okay, good. Yeah,
I'm just saying it was a straight to streaming,
yes,
but it was like
straight to streaming isn't the same thing as direct to video. It really is. Now, you will get the same things sometimes, but you're going to see that more on like Amazon Prime or Tubi than you are on Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Right. You didn't have a made straight to VHS
Right.
for a $200 million budget.
Exactly.
Which is what Red Notice was.
Especially because of the pandemic and the decline of theaters. But before that, the whole gestalt of direct-to-video is not the same thing.
Yeah. The market's been mashed together with something that used to be an outlet for smaller venues films.
I don't know the exact equivalent. Maybe
Straight to Tubi?
Maybe straight to Tubi. Yeah, something like that. A Tubi original. That's more strict than direct video than anything else. And even then, though, there's some pretty good ones and some high budget ones. I watched a really good one like 2 nights ago that I thought was solid.
Does it have a name?
No, nameless film. Invasive. For a Tubi original, I was like, wow, this is really well crafted. It's kind of a whatever movie, but for that, it was a masterpiece. You know, it's like one of those, like, every now and then you get a Mansquito, you know? No. You know what it is? Actually, what it literally is like is Sci-Fi Channel always had the worst. Right after the VHS era ended, Sci-Fi Channel was the place you went for that, for what we used to call direct video genre bullshit, right? Blood Surf or whatever it was what we watched that time, that kind of thing. But then every now and then, they would get a fucking Battlestar Galactica.
Times they are changing. So they probably went to direct-to-video at some point. In 1952, Tezuka, again, created Astro Boy as a manga, and then get on to a black and white TV series to full color to computer animated 3D film, and then remade in the 1980s as a color TV series which ran for 52 episodes.
Okay, the way you said that made it sound like it was a black and white show and then became a 3D animated show in 1952. I'm very confused as to when that happened.
It's ahead of its time.
Yeah, apparently. It's an outlier, yeah.
Donald Trump had his time machine, went back.
Okay, so when did it become a 3D animated series?
Well, it became a 3D animated film.
I'm sorry.
And that's 2009.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah. It's gone through multiple versions.
Absolutely.
Updates.
Make a joke about it in Arrested Development.
Do they?
Yes, where George, he's locked out in house arrest, and he wants to escape, and he makes a reference to Astro Boy being able to fly off with a pair of rocket pants, which aren't a thing, and they make a joke about it not being a thing. That's where he gets the idea to put a bunch of balloons on a chair.
Well, he probably makes that reference because Astro Boy, the TV series, was so successful that it became the first anime to be broadcast overseas, with English dub version airing in the United States from 1963 until 1966.
Wow.
Another popular anime adaptation was Gigantor, 64 to 66.
Yes.
And then again, 93 to 97.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was the American version of Misutero Yokama's manga Tetsujin 28 Go. It's about a 12-year-old boy who controls a giant flying robot, Gigantor.
Or Iron Giant, whatever. Anyway, quick anecdote. My friend Andy, his brother, is one of those guys you never run out of stories to tell about because he did all sorts of crazy shit. I remember we went to a movie one time that he had seen several times before, but wanted me to go to. I don't remember which movie it was, but there is a moment where a female main character takes her top off and shows her, full frontal.
Her hoo-has?
Her juggalos.
Her tater tots?
We call them a gathering when they're together in a bra. He kept waiting for something to happen, and he kept being like, oh, wait, okay, here it is. Wait, just wait for it. Wait. And then goes silent, and then the woman takes her top off, and then there's a long pause, and then he just turns to me and goes, I call the left one Gigantor. I was like, okay. Cool. That's why he took me to the movie.
Well founded, good sir.
Just a sidebar.
You know, it wasn't a sidebar. That was Speed Racer, who also came out 66 and 68. Very popular with American viewers. Speed Racer, also known as Mach Go Go Go.
That's funny. You can't get more poorly translated. Because Speed Racer sounds like a poorly translated name. But then, hold on to your hats. For the show.
Also, a super cool name. The Danger: Diabolique, made in 1968, directed by Mario Bava. Now, this was based on Diabolique, created in 1962, one of the most popular series in the history of Italian comics, consisting of over 900 volumes, and led to the birth of the fumetti neri comic subgenre. Now, if you don't know fumetti neri,
which most people don't,
essentially it's black comics.
Whoa,
that's kind of short for. Now, this comes from Cronaca Nera, which is the Italian name for crime news.
So it's noir, not black.
Yes, it's among the early inspirations of film noir, French feuilleton, and Italian horror films. So they kind of bound these all together, and heroes of the Fumetti Neri were kind of more anti-hero or villain than traditional heroes.
It's off the coattails of Italian neorealism. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's, it's much more adult for adult readers with exploitive themes and characterized by violence and sexual references.
All the kid-friendly stuff, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And Diabolique was the pioneer in this particular realm. And, like I said, had a movie made about it in 68 by Mario Bava. Now we'll jump into the EC era, where we get Freddie Francis's Tales from the Crypt from 1972.
EC, which is what DC Comics ended up becoming. EC ended up being DC, yeah.
Did it?
I
thought that was like Quality Comics.
Well, they absorbed a lot of stuff, but the company was sold. EC Publications in the 1960s was eventually absorbed into the same corporation that later purchased National Periodical Publications, which is later known as DC Comics.
Gotcha. Yes. Tales from the Crypt also had a TV series from 1989 to 1996 on HBO. Very popular at the time.
Yeah.
And then a few feature films. Demon Knight, 1995.
Bordello of Blood
from 1996, which is probably the least successful of all EC adaptations.
With Dennis Miller and a super soaker full of holy water. Yeah, that's all you need to know. At least the other one had Billy Zane.
Oh, man. What a fucking pair of failures. The movies, not the people.
Not Billy Zane.
not Billy Zane.
Said Christopher Walken for some reason.
I had Billy Zane up my ass
for 2 years. That's what happened to Billy Zane. That's why he started shaving his head.
Yeah, it makes the cleanup all that easier.
We just slip right in.
Now, about this time, you're going to get some of your forays into TV for some characters, some Marvel characters in particular, like your Amazing Spider-Man, which, again, 1977 and 1979 on CBS as a live-action version of that character.
Which doesn't hold a candle to the Japanese version, by the way.
No, which is much cooler,
nothing to do with Spider-Man, really.
That was 41 episodes, airing on Tokyo Channel 12 from 1978 to 1979. So
a shorter period of time. Wow.
Overlapping, also.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. But you also have probably the more popular version of that, which would be The Incredible Hulk, starring Bill Bixby in 1978, which did lead to a movie. I believe it was at the trial of The Incredible Hulk. I didn't look this up. I'm going off the dome.
There were multiple movies, and the movies are when they started introducing other Marvel characters, which is interesting. So the trial of The Incredible Hulk featured William Katt as Daredevil.
Yes.
and The Death of the Incredible Hulk. One of them features Thor.
I believe that one has both of them in it, doesn't it?
Does it? I know The Death of the Incredible Hulk is a different film than The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. But they did a bunch of made-for-TV stuff there at the end. It was kind of like Columbo. It wasn't really a series. It was more just like a sequence of made-for-TV movies.
Yeah, there was also supposed to be a third film starring She-Hulk, just like the other two had featured both Thor and Daredevil. And as early as July 1989, was still firmly expected to come out and be made, with Iron Man under consideration for a follow-up after that. But did not happen.
Bill Bixby died not too long after that, right? So, I mean, that's probably...
He was struggling with cancer at the time.
That is true. I mean, like, how do you go on after The Death of the Incredible Hulk? Like, it's
the next Death of the Incredible Hulk.
Just kidding, Incredible Hulk Part 2. Sorry, we weren't paying attention. He's still alive.
I mean, if they did the comics version, you know, like, kind of can't die, and so he just keep on going.
Was it the old man?
You're thinking Hulk the End? Yeah, but they've done more with Indestructible Hulk, and they do a lot of, like, divining power from an alternate reality thing. It's really cool. I would wholeheartedly
Sounds like
recommend
some spider totem bullshit to me.
Hey, it may not sound good on its face, but
sure. Okay, I mean, I give it a shot, obviously. Big Hulk standouts are The End, Future Imperfect by Peter David, where they introduced Maestro, and Banner.
Yeah, I think Immortal Hulk is worthy to be in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I hated World War Hulk. I thought it was stupid.
Yes, I think the idea of World War Hulk is great, but
it wasn't good.
It was neutered, and it's a thing for a different time. But Immortal Hulk is well worth checking out.
Okay.
Perhaps not as big as the Incredible Hulk. We have Little Orphan Annie, who was first created by Harold Gray.
Not as big as the Incredible Hulk.
Created by Harold Gray in 1924. I ran continuously in newspapers around the world up until 2010. Now, John Huston tried to take a stab at Annie, film-wise, not with a knife. That didn't go so well. There was also a TV movie version in 1989 and a 2014 theatrical version that we'll say had moderate success.
Well, there was also the 2021 NBC aired a live version of the theatrical production.
Yes. Annie Live.
Right.
Yeah, it was 2021.
Did you know that Annie as a concept is a secret neoliberal critique of FDR?
I can kind of see that.
So Daddy Warbucks is called that because they didn't like that FDR was giving money and supplies to the UK during World War II.
That's why it's originally called Daddy War Bonds.
Yeah, basically it's a complete neoliberal response to the progressive FDR administration. That Daddy Warbucks is supposed to be the manifestation of how they thought he was ruining America because he, I don't know, like, helped save everyone or whatever. So, just like they almost had an armed coup against FDR. It's the same kind of game. Anyway, keep going.
Interesting. Armed coup.
Well,
I'd like to hear more about that sometime. Very similar to FDR was Swamp Thing, created in...
That's true. Yeah. They both famously are in wheelchairs. They both had polio.
Yeah. Now, he was created in 1971 and had a, we'll say, underground hit film in 1982, directed by Wes Craven.
Yeah, starring Ray Wise and Adrienne Barbeau.
Get Wise.
The Adrienne Barbeau bot.
Indeed. It also had The Return of Swamp Thing in 1989.
That one is hard to watch.
But it had Heather Locklear in it.
Oh,
right?
Sure. But I know one of them is kind of like The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's kind of a direct ripoff.
Yeah, and I think maybe that one also might be plucking some key elements from another title we'll be talking about here in a minute.
Okay.
But before we get there, we want to touch on the famous, perhaps biggest fantasy, especially sword and sorcery kind of character created in 1932. That is Conan the Barbarian.
Fuck yes.
By Robert E. Howard. It was picked up in 1970 to be a comic book by Marvel and ran for 275 issues, ending in 1993. Then going to Dark Horse and other places and coming back to Marvel, where I think last I saw, he was an Avenger. So there's
the
that.
Fuck?
Don't worry about it.
Well, isn't he? I thought he was published into other. I thought he bounced around more than just that.
So during the 70s, there were also the magazine format, but I believe they were
Marvel.
They were Marvel. I think maybe under the Eclipse banner.
No, I don't think they were Eclipse, but they did run under the magazine format, which is a thing we should get into in another episode. But I thought they had Dynamite or somebody. It doesn't matter. No, I probably was just wrong.
Yes, but post Marvel, it mostly went to Dark Horse for a long time. And then Dynamite Entertainment got the rights.
Okay.
Now it's odd because the main, Conan is back with Marvel. And so they're reprinting Dark Horse stuff and old Marvel stuff and whatnot.
Weird.
But there's also their comics that are Conan in every way except name.
You mean Cull?
I mean, actually, it's called The Sumerian, and it's literally Conan with other Conan characters telling Conan stories, but not allowed to call him Conan.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Conan did have a pretty big film,
which
that
fucking
came out in
rules to this day.
Yes, very awesome. One of my favorites of all time. There's also the follow-up in 1984, Conan the Destroyer. It's not good. It's not as bad.
Okay.
I was literally just rewatching it the other day because I got the 4K special editions that came out recently.
Oh, of course you did.
I just had it on because
is Will Chamberlain taller in the 4K version?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a running number count on his belt. You have to in regular HD you can't see it. In 4K you see the numbers ticking off.
It's got one of those ones when you remember when you worked at the library and you had to have the counter thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
For people coming in and out. That's exactly.
That. Ding, ding.
Yeah. He doesn't even have to be there.
No.
It's incredible.
There was also, similar, the Red Sonja film, came out in 1985, also had a Conan-esque character played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but not allowed to call him Conan because they did not have the rights to Conan the Barbarian.
Did he even have a name?
Yeah, he was Calidor.
What the fuck is that bullshit? That's a planet in Dune. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, the planet became sentient, came to life in 1985.
Like Ego, and then...
But again, we hope you've enjoyed. Please do spread the word if you are liking. Come get us next pod, gentle listener. And until that time, Skip, what else should they do?
They should probably, especially after this episode... Well, first of all, clean up after yourself to some sort of reasonable degree.
Filthy savages.
I know, seriously. But make sure you support your local comic shops and retailers. This is important. And make sure you have, of course, paid your tabs, tipped your waitstaff, and your delivery drivers. But make sure, very specifically, like Jake said, to subscribe, share, and download all of these things, because this is how we get seen. From Dispatch Ajax, we would like to say, Godspeed, fair wizards.
Whoa. With the sickness.
Well, I'm down.
Hey, you down with that sickness?
Please, go away.